Hey, welcome back. This is Carlos, and we're going to talk today about 3 shocking reasons why men love bitches. Or do they? Well, does it seem that way to you? Like men can't seem to get enough of bitchy women? First of all, what is a bitch anyways? Some say it's a woman who has self-respect and doesn't allow guys to walk all over her. Well, that's just generally a person with self-respect and a healthy dose of self-esteem. That's not really what a bitch is. I mean, here you are. You're probably a normal woman, a female in form and in passion. You were probably told that if you were just like those princesses in the Disney movies, someday your prince would show up, sweep you off your feet, and you'd live happily ever after. Now, if you're sweet, nice, and gentle, men will just love you to death. Well, okay, that didn't happen, so you decided Match.com was going to be your next port of call to find Mr. Right, but you probably discovered that it's not the field of roses that it's painted out to be. Hey, you know what? Online dating can be great if you know what to expect, but don't expect a fairy tale ending. Maybe you're a woman that's interested in men, and then when you show a certain level of kindness and warmth, which is a natural way of expressing affection for you, the same guys tend to withdraw or become distant. And then, when you decide you're no longer interested in him, you give him the cold shoulder. Maybe you act a little disinterested, a little cold, or a little distant. All of a sudden, what happens? That's right. He chases and pursues you relentlessly. You become this irresistible goddess of white light that he must have. And so your likely assumption is that if he responds like this, well, he must want to be treated like this. And more it seems, guys are drawn to this overbearing and stereotypical bitch instead. Well, first of all, let's get our definition of bitch set right up front. A bitch is a woman who treats men badly because that's what men seem to respond to. It's not an empowered woman. It's not necessarily a confident, secure, or independent woman either. Mostly she just isn't very nice to guys. And there's also a subtle undercurrent of man-hating to her as well. But wait, is it true that men really want this, that we are looking for women who mistreat us? Well, as I'm about to reveal, the truth is going to be a little bit more shocking than that. Let's jump right into the 3 shocking reasons men love bitches. Do men love bitches? Reason number 1, he's got no self-respect. Yes, the unfortunate truth is that one of the big reasons a guy might chase you when you mistreat him is that he's just a low self-esteem dude. He doesn't feel very good about himself, so having a woman to command him actually feels good to him. There's a good chance this guy was brought up in a single mom household where the man probably wasn't very present. This kind of guy seems very easygoing and relaxed, which is kind of the cool thing about him, but he's a bit too relaxed when it comes to the decision making. And I hate to say this, but a lot of these guys have associated the strong love of a mother who had to play both roles and didn't always connect with her femininity. And whether we like it or not, our kids form a lot of their patterns of attachment to the opposite sex from the opposite sex parent, which is what happens to us. On many levels, the guy that's attracted to a woman because he wants a strong female role model simply lacks any good male role model. Sure, he'll seem like a really nice guy, which is what all our friends and family will say about him, but overall, you're going to find this guy to be a real wuss. He won't feel attractive to you because he lacks any masculine edge to his personality. He'll want you to make the decisions. He'll want you to take the lead. He'll do whatever he can to avoid making you mad, always looking for your approval. And then years into the relationship, you'll find that you're with him because you think you should be with him or because he's never that much of a bother to have around. Yeah, he doesn't mistreat you, sure, but he also lacks any masculine charge that makes sexual attraction work. Now, some women take this guy on as a project and give up. They end up losing the attraction for him in a few short years. I've seen lots of marriages do this. Eventually, they feel compelled to cheat on him and then wonder where that horrible urge even came from because it seems like it's another person to her. But it feels like the only way that they can escape the relationship. And it happens because deep inside, these women know that most people won't see why her relationship is unbearable, or they would probably think of her as being the awful one, and they go through a lot of guilt. This is a pattern I've seen, and it happens much more frequently than women or men ever like to admit happens. But there's another reason women get drawn into this role. Sometimes he wants a bitch. Reason number 2, he thrives on the conflict and contention. Now, have you ever had a couple of your friends, there are a couple of yours that were always going at it with each other, always ramming heads? You might see them having one loving moment with each other, usually when looking back on the past or reminiscing, But the other 99% of the time, they're constantly bickering and arguing. She seems to nag, and he seems to love to bicker back at her. They just love to disagree. Sometimes they make up just as strongly, so it becomes that love hate thing. But most often they just they stop bickering, and that seems like they're back in love again, just because they're not arguing. You'll often talk to your friends about them, and somebody inevitably says, "Hey, if it works for them," but you suspect on some level that it really doesn't work for them. It doesn't seem loving or caring, and it definitely isn't what you call a good relationship. There's no glow and there's no goodwill there. And you know you want more than that. Let's face it, some relationships are just always going to be like throwing gunpowder on an open fire. The personality quirks and self-esteem flaws of one person kind of rub up against the quirks and flaws of another, and then you wind up with sparks every time that ignite the conflict. This is another case of getting pulled into a dysfunctional dynamic that kills sexual attraction. But unlike getting involved with a wimpy guy, this relationship can grow and evolve into a healthy and loving one, but not without some work. And finally, we come to the last reason. Why do men love bitches? Because reason number 3, he's challenged. And I don't mean mentally challenged. I mean he's challenged. Most guys need the woman in their life to feel like you're a challenge. One guy I know put it like this: a woman who is too easygoing is not going to scratch a man's competitive itch because, yeah, we want to have a challenge thrown down for us to overcome. It's even in all those fairy tales that women love so much. And you know what? Women even want to see us compete and fight for their love and approval. And he's right. Men do need to feel like they've earned you. It's an indication of your relative value in the social marketplace. The really crazy part that we don't like to admit is that this is true in all areas of life. We value those friends most who can be, well, a little trickier to coordinate our schedules to get together with. They're always a little bit harder to connect with, and we value the mentors and people in our life that we have to earn that time to be with. Women even appreciate men more that they've had to work hard to win over. So men need to feel like they've worked hard to earn you, which also then flows back to him as an accomplishment of sorts. After all, if he won you, that means you feel more valuable to him, and you picked him, which means he has to be valuable too. It's a social value thing. It's kind of funny how this cycle of self-esteem can sometimes be a little twisted, right? No matter how much we might cry out that it's not fair, the fact is that this is the way our minds and our psychology work. When you were young, did you ever know a kid that would always work really hard to be your friend? You know, he's always eager, always trying so hard to be likable. Could be a boy, could be a girl. In that, ironically, made him much more unlikable to you and your friends. Something just seemed kind of, wrong about him. And the reason is that we naturally distrust anyone that needs us that much because we sense that they are needy. And they're going to be emotional and possibly a survival burden to us. Hey, no one said this psychology stuff was all fun and games, right? But there's an upside to this too. This is our primal brain screening out the people that we just won't find sexually appealing for very long. So it's kind of a fast sorting routine that our brain does that saves us from heartache later on. So when it comes right down to it, men hunger and crave the challenge. Sometimes it's unhealthy, but most often it's a real need that a woman can give him. Now, the problem with using this bitch mindset to challenge guys is that it's often a facade. It's an illusion created by a woman's elusiveness and her apparent disinterest. It's not built on the healthy side of challenge, where a woman allows a man to prove himself to her. A healthy challenge also means she doesn't hold him at arm's length just to manipulate his affection, but to pace the relationship correctly. A man wants the fruits of victory, and you can help him. The positive foundation of a bitch attitude that works is simply confidence and self-worth. And it's by possessing those two healthy virtues that a woman never needs to become a bitch at all, or mistreat men. She merely comfortably asserts herself without making it too aggressive and masculine. She knows how to enforce her boundaries without being too angry or vindictive. Now, in the end, if you're wondering if I endorse this idea of men love bitches, the truth is that you need to understand what part of a bitch a man is attracted to and why. If you're a strong, resourceful, and compassionate woman and you're not dead set on competing with him in your relationship, which you'd be surprised, a lot of women often are, then you've probably got just the right amount of bitch to keep any man healthy. If you're strong, resourceful, and compassionate, and you're not dead set on competing with him in your relationship, and you'd be surprised how many women do this, well, you've probably got just the right amount of bitch to keep any healthy man happy. And that's what you need to focus on most. Be the best you, because if you're focusing on a quality of your personality just to solely attract men, that's probably misplaced energy. So if you'd like to learn more about connection and creating that kind of loving connection in your life so that you don't have to be a bitch, go on over to datingadviceguru.com/connection code. Okay, I've got a video there for you actually talking about the 7 fatal connection mistakes that women make with men. And they're very common and they're very easy to avoid. So to find out what they are, go on over to datingadviceguru.com/connection code. And I'll see you next time.